and welcome to the Knighted Ones podcast, episode number 24. 24, no longer Trey's favorite number or his football jersey. Luckily, we are the only podcast that features a former UCF National Champion, a former UCF radio host, and several podcasters shooting the breeze talking UCF sports. And I should amend that intro to include a UCF ESPN television analyst as well, because Ben Stout, if you guys don't know it, that face of his is not just good for radio, it's good for television too. So super excited to have him on board with us. Spent a lot of time together. This week, we're going to be talking a lot of hoops to start. Obviously, we've got the Baylor game to kind of talk about, and Oklahoma, which was a heck of a lot more exciting for us. Because we got the dub. In addition to that, there's been a ton of football news. So the second half of the show, we will be talking football and a lot of it. Everything from a recruit that's on campus that recently committed, to the schedule dropping, to things that are going on with the college football playoff, a whole host of things to talk about with football. It's funny because in previous years, on previous shows, if you'd watched Nightline or listened to Nightline, the dog days of summer were rough. We were waiting for the spring game, but it's been super exciting this year with this basketball program. So I'm thankful for that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring Tall Ben from Publix, Ben Stout. What's up, bro?
What's up, man? How's it going?
Good. And for those of you that missed that reference, Coach Wally, who we had on last week, grew up around the same area and same time as Ben did, and they knew of each other. And he told the story of where Ben was working at Publix and used to reach for tall things for, I believe, his grandma, right? Was it his grandma that you?
No, it was his mom. Yeah, but his mom.
Yeah.
But yeah, we shout out to the Metro West Publix. Yeah, we definitely knew, or his parents knew me from there. I knew Rich from there, I guess, a little bit in high school, and he was a year or two older than me. But yeah, I guess he told his mom last week that he was going to come on the show with us, and his mom says, he goes, "You remember Ben?" He goes, "Oh yeah, Tall Ben from Publix." So yeah, I guess that's just, and we changed my name the rest of the show after he told that story off air to us, and then we're gonna keep it going for at least another week.
Oh, at least another. So Tall Ben from Publix, not only is he a former UCF hoops player, not only an ESPN analyst, but he's also the nice kid at Publix. So the next time you guys go to Publix, remember, treat them nice, because you never know where they'll end up being. All right. And in addition to that, I unfortunately don't have that type of intro for our next personality. But last but not least, but always last, Josh Lazar.
Hey, we're podcasting is a pleasure, right? Is that?
Nice reference.
Podcasting is a pleasure. I like that one. I should have let you write. I should have let you write the intro for Coach Wallace last week, because I definitely fumbled the football when it came to that.
The football.
The football. I dropped the ball out of my glove. I whiffed on strike three. I mean, whatever sports reference you want to throw in there, but yeah, I had an opportunity that I totally whiffed on that fastball.
Yes.
All right.
Very good. Finally, good reference.
Yeah, there you go. So okay, so you're my fact checker now, my joke checker, right? Is that what's happening? All right, my joke checker. Well, we're all at a loss, because that's going to be bad. All right, so this week let's get into a little bit of text talk. There was some heated text talk this week in the Baylor game. There was a lot of excitement at the beginning, and then a lot of frustration in the second half. And then also Oklahoma, there was a lot of excitement. Josh, unfortunately, was not able to participate as much because he had to recharge his EV while he was on the road to a conference. And Ben missed the first half and had to catch up. So, I did most of the 83 texts that were involved in that thread.
That's typical, though.
That is typical. I talk as much on the air as I do with my fingers on text. So I just get excited about UCF sports. What can I say? All right. Yeah, that was definitely a B if no one hit that. So anyway, let's get into text talk. I guess Tall Ben from Publix. Let's start with you.
I love that.
All right, so ill prepared for calling out a text talk as usual, but I did remember a certain moment in the second half of the Oklahoma game where a number of us were talking about something that just happened on the court. But Antoine Jones, who had a great game, and we'll talk about that, he got called for a foul, and it was like a third foul in the game. So like he was kind of disrupting his really good game there. And what I noticed is Darius Johnson just like he was upset about the foul, but Darius Johnson just kind of grabbing him and like bringing him together in the huddle. He actually kind of got in his face a little bit, got in Antoine's face, and just said, "Hey man," I could tell. He just said, "Hey man, like we're like calm down, like let's lock back in." And so I said, good leadership there by DJ to grab Jones and tell him to shut up about the call and lock back in. I think it was a great moment on TV anyways, where you could just see DJ's leadership on display. Antoine came out of the game momentarily there for a little bit after that foul call, but when he came back in, he was on fire once again. So it was cool to see DJ really with his leadership on display there.
All right. Definitely a good call out. Need your point guard. That's my point guard. Well, It is right now anyway. So although he has an extra year, so you might be seeing DJ back next year as well.
I hope so.
Josh, what about you?
I'll get to that in a second, but it's kind of like having BJ Taylor back for a fourth year. Like that, you can see his progression and his amazing work as a basketball player. But it'd be great to see DJ back another year. So my text talk, I talked a little in Baylor, but one of the most fun things that I thought came up through text talk, and I was driving back from a conference from Charlotte to Orlando during the game, so I was only able to see some of it when I was charging and stopping.
How many times did you have to do that, by the way?
So on the way up, I needed 2. On the way back, because I didn't charge when I went to Charlotte, I didn't charge at all. So I had a very low tank, if you will. So I had to do about 4 times based off of where that was. Probably added less than an hour total to the trip, and it was amazing. Like there was a couple times I charged for like 10 minutes and I'm back on the road. So it was actually potentially easier than with a gasoline car, but I can explain that another time, not when we're doing the text talks. It was smooth and wonderful. So anyway, back to the text talk. So near the end of the game, I think maybe right after it, I said, every game that I sell my tickets, we've won. Should I sell my tickets for the rest of the season? And everyone is emphatically yes. And every time I sell my tickets, it's to an opposing team fan. And that I have the text number of the person in the seat next to me. And I said, was it an Oklahoma fan again? And he's like, yeah, and laughing out loud. So I sell my tickets to opposing team fans and they lose. So I don't know if we're going to keep doing that, but
I'd sell, dude. Sell. Just sell.
I think it's your obligation as a UCF fan to sell all your rest or your tickets, Josh. I think it's your obligation at this point.
Now, it doesn't need to be an opposing fan, because I will tell you, if I was your next door neighbor, seat wise, I'd be a little frustrated if I had some crazy opposing fan every time that was sitting beside me. But I think they need to take one for the team too.
Yeah, I will tell you this, and I only found this out during the West Virginia game. So in the Kansas game, I sold my tickets to whomever wanted to pay $600 for 2 tickets. And of course, it was Kansas fans. And, we, even in the section I'm in, we still stand until we score.
Right.
If you remember the Kansas game, that took a while.
Yep.
And so this couple was sitting down the whole time and couldn't see most of the beginning of the game because everyone was standing. They started getting like mouthy, and people were getting mouthy back to them. So I apologized to the people around me. I guess I saw that type of confrontation somewhere on probably the Dungeon or some sports board, and I'm pretty sure it was the Dungeon. I'm like, those are my tickets. So yeah, I will still try to sell them, I guess, and then buy other tickets. I think
I thought Kansas fans were all supposed to be nice Midwestern people, but I guess we found out something else.
I mean, it took a while to score. I think it was after the under 16. So I mean, I think I can get it. I get it, and I think they said we paid a lot of money for these tickets. And I'm like, thank you, I appreciate it. So yeah.
Well, there you go. All right, Josh, thank you for that story time. Let's go ahead and get into the Baylor game. So UCF did lose this game to number 18 Baylor, 77-69. UCF did have a halftime lead. So again, continuing that momentum as far as starting off strong early. We did that at Cincinnati. We did that with Baylor and obviously with Oklahoma this week, which is what we want to see. We'd like to see, which is awesome. And I think, my comment right before we started recording was I think they're learning how to play with a lead, right? Because in the past, they kind of faded. Now, obviously, there were some roster issues, Diallo being out, other things that kind of contributed to that. 77-69 was not really reflective of how close this game was, actually, because there was, intentional fouling that was going on towards the end, trying to extend it. But we did have a 6-point halftime lead earlier this season. I remember us all having the conversation, keep it under 12, keep it under 12. If we get it under 12, we've got a shot. Then it became 8. And now we're going into the half with leads. So that's awesome. Darius Johnson had a great game. He had 23 points, 10 assists, and 7 boards. That's pretty good stat line for a point guard. Avery had 16 points this game, and Sellers chipped in 14. And again, Sellers seems to have continued that, getting his groove back. He's starting to score on a more regular basis, and we were missing that for a stretch of games. UCF shot really well. We were at 54% from the field and 51% from 3. That 3-point shot has been something that we've been missing all season long, and it seems to be starting to fall for us a little bit. Hopefully that continues. I won't call it a trend now, but we got off to a hot start against Oklahoma with 3-pointers as well, and it's coming from different people, which is good. Difference in this game, inexplicably, UCF went 1 for 7. The other inexplicable thing was Baylor had 25 shots. We had 7. So again, we've talked about that discrepancy a few times. However, I will say this, second half, we were all screaming in the text talk, drive the paint. And we just didn't do it. We hung around. We went back to, hey, let's dribble for 20 seconds, trying to maintain the lead, and then didn't pass into the paint, didn't penetrate, and didn't have time to set up anything because we were leading most of the way, and we just let them get back in it. So that was reflective on there, although there, again, with our Big 12 officiating was led to some interesting things that Baylor actually complained about Big 12 officiating this week in their game. So interesting. UCF also had 16 turnovers. When we talk about this, what you always hear me say, if we keep it under 15, we've got a shot. The Bears only had 9. To me, that really, spoke to the difference that Allen, makes defensively. The fact that we have 3 point guards that are out there that can move the ball, that can absorb those fouls and not have to worry about it, so we can play a little bit more aggressively, beyond the arc. And you can see the difference in our defense when that happens, and missing him. Baylor scored 14 points off of those turnovers. So the 16 turnovers, typically you don't see 14 points out of those turnovers, but we did this game. And Baylor outscored UCF in the paint 30-16. Again, that goes back to what we were talking about not driving the paint, which we did a much better job at OU. We did it intentionally. We did it forcefully. And the idea, especially for Jalen Sellers, was, and even Oklahoma's coach after in the postgame said, hey, look, he drove the paint and he did it with intention. He was either going to get up a shot and score points that way, or he was going to get fouled. And he's really, really dangerous when he does that. Now, that doesn't mean we play hero ball because there was a lot of good passing, especially early in that game at Oklahoma. And we saw a lot of, on the transition offense or whatever, we see a lot more passing inside the paint. You'll see someone, instead of just going up, they're dropping it to a big that's sitting there waiting to clean it up. So all in all, we started off strong. Second half, I do think we were hurt by our lack of depth. Diallo going out. I don't know how many minutes. Was it 5 minutes he was in the game total with his quick fouls? Was it that long that he was in the game? And he was out, and he's a huge presence for us internally, both in changing what they do offensively, but also he's kind of been picking up on his offensive game, and we were missing that in the low post as well. So, guys, I'm going to shut up and listen. So, Ben, what were your thoughts about this Baylor game?
Yeah, I think you might be thinking of the game before that, the Cincinnati game where Diallo fouled out of that game, and so did Omar Payne. But regardless, I think this is one of those games that it's just you kind of look at the stat sheet, and outside of the turnover discrepancy, which is 9-16 is certainly a discrepancy there that we don't want to be on the wrong side of, and we were in this game. But then I think you look at the 1 for 7 from the free throw line, as you mentioned, versus 20 for 25 for Baylor. So, that's 19 more points from the free throw line than we were able to accomplish. Obviously, a lot of those were late when Baylor kind of took a lead. But the reason they were able to take a lead, I think, and you mentioned this, but the 16 turnovers that UCF had, I don't have the first half, second half breakdown of that, but it had to be large majority of them had to be in the second half. We just had a lot of miscues. And it was kind of like one of those games, unfortunately, where we started to lose momentum and then it just kind of got overwhelming. Like it was like a few bad plays here and there when we had the lead. And then all of a sudden you kind of look up and they're like, oh no, they're chipping away at this. And then, oh no, they have a lead. And it almost seemed like, as opposed to some other games like Kansas in particular or others, like where we were just like either not willing to give up the lead, or even if they did take the lead by 2 or 3, we made a play to like get it back right away and kind of keep that momentum on our side, keep the home crowd in it. Baylor, I'll give them credit. They were able to do that. They were kind of methodically just kind of pushed back into the game, and then they accelerated, which is what they can do because they're a very, very highly efficient team offensively. I think they're 4th in the nation for total offense, and we're
defense.
And we're 4th in defense. So it was a heck of a matchup. It was one of those matchups that when we talked about the schedule, the conference schedule before we got into the conference slate, Baylor was one of those teams that I mentioned that we could kind of chip away and take down. And the reason why I thought that is because they looked like a certain team that could rely on their offensive production. And if we're able to stymie that, if we're able to slow them down offensively, then all of a sudden we can throw their game off and we could steal one from a top 20 team. That's some of the things I concentrated on before we even started the conference slate. And it rang true in that kind of concept. It rang true in the first half where we were able to just kind of close out on shooters and make sure we were in the passing lanes and kind of disrupt them enough in their like really free-flowing offense to be able to, get the ball on the other end of the court in transition and score some easy buckets ourselves. And so we kind of were able to pull away. We had a 10-point lead. I think it was 18-8 at one point in the first half.
It was.
And so we were able to kind of jump on them early. But I think just in the second half, like I said, it kind of started to slip away. And I think it also shows in this particular game, and then obviously we saw the plus side of this in the Oklahoma game, which we'll get to in a second. But I mean, it just, when that starts to happen, it really is helpful to have a guy like Shemari Allen in your lineup. I mean, he is just a veteran presence. He's a type of guy that can get a clutch stop on the defensive end when you need it. And certainly like
a turnover too.
Right.
That's the big thing he does, is like he seems to have a knack for getting a turnover when things are, it's almost like having a timeout on the floor.
Yeah.
You get that turnover and then you turn it into points, and then all of a sudden it stops and everybody just takes a deep breath and like, okay, we're all right.
Yeah. And so it's just, and it's his overall presence, and, one of the captains on the court, he provides a lot of poise to the lineup. And I think that we missed him in this game. And then I got to say, like, in this game in particular, it's not that Baylor had some like bruising big man or anything like that, but I mean, we did out rebound them 29-26, not a huge rebounding advantage. But I just, if you have CJ Walker playing significant minutes in this game as opposed to Tierno Silla, I just think that the dynamics are a little bit different.
The glass, the advantage on the glass is higher, and to your point, they didn't have really like dominant big men in the paint,
right,
defensively, but they were better offensive threats and were more versatile than the folks that we had in the game. And Messi was one of them. Messi was just phenomenal in the second half.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly, and so it's just. And when you kind of get in a rut offensively, like you don't want your whole 5 people in the lineup to try to shoot your way out of it, especially from the 3-point line. You want to, as you said, get aggressive. You want to get downhill. You want to get to the basket, try to get to the free throw line, try to like stop their run that way. It's harder to like kind of force shots and shoot your way out of a run. Obviously, if you see 52% from the 3-point line, you're like, well, shoot. Certainly three-pointers weren't an issue, but you're right. When Baylor started to go on that run, you needed that aggressive action from UCF's offense to like try to get into the paint, try to like, impose our will and be more physical than them, because that's how we've been successful in conference, especially so far. And when Diallo has to go out for a certain period of time in the second half, and you've got Silla as your like main big man, who just like offensively, it's not necessarily a criticism. It's just his style of play. Like he likes to be on the outside. He doesn't like to be on the inside, like somebody of his height usually would. And so it just kind of creates that kind of dynamic where you're just kind of settling for jump shots when really you need to be aggressive and get in the paint. And I think that was the difference in this game. And then just some of the insertions into the lineup certainly were the difference in the Oklahoma game, which we'll get to in a second. But yeah, we
shot better. I mean, we shot better than Baylor did. We shot 54% field goal percentage. They shot 47. We shot 51.9 from behind the arc. They shot 45%. So, statistically, we out-rebounded them. We had a better shooting percentage. 9 times out of 10, that turns into more points at the end of the scoreboard.
Yeah, it's just a weird one of those things that doesn't line up statistically, because you look at those and you're like, yeah, we outshot them, but we kind of played their game, and that's why we lost. I think we kind of tried to out Baylor, and you can't do that all the time. You can be successful for a while, but maybe not for a full 40, and that's what happened.
All right, Josh Lazar, any thoughts on Baylor?
You guys really covered it all, but the biggest thing I would say is, when you're missing bodies makes a big difference. And we don't even have CJ Walker back at this point, even for the last couple of games. So I think a couple weeks ago, I think it was the week before he rolled his ankle, I was like, if Shemari Allen can take over for the one for a while and give DJ or others a bit of Nils or others a little bit of a mix of time on the court, we have the ability to do a lot. When you see not only him but CJ out at times, it makes a big difference. And to me, I'll take the other side of this. I thought, minus maybe the last 10 to 15 minutes, but I thought with those pieces out, we were still leading at the half. We still had some fight in us, but and I know Roger likes that. And you can see when we got to the point where we really needed some more of that leadership or some more of that drive, it was missing. Plainly, it was missing. And we see that in the Oklahoma game, how that's a lot different when you just get one piece of the puzzle back.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you noted that too, because, the games that we've lost, most of them have been razor wire thin, right? So losing a few pieces out of that, one of our strengths is our depth, because we don't get consistency out of everyone. And so when you're losing a few of depth pieces, if someone has an off night, it hurts you more than it would when you have the full rotation to play with. So, I definitely agree with that. And I know Ben's going to get mad at me for bringing this up, but we were talking about Nils, right? Yes, he's learning. And Josh, yes, you have a reason for saying that. But the last 3 games, he is getting better progressively, right?
Yeah.
But when you take him out of that line and put him into that lineup, he's just not ready for Big 12 basketball as a freshman. He's not shooting well enough to justify inserting him. And he's just not there yet. And so I know we're trying to give our guys a breather, especially with Allen being out. That slowed down our rotations. But at the same time, the last 3 games, every time he's been in, it's allowed other people to, to catch up, other teams to catch up during the time that he was in. So again, not trying to bag on him, and that wasn't my intention in the text, but it's a fact. And since it is so razor thin, we don't have it to give, and that's my point, especially when we have people out.
So the only thing I'll say about that,
look at that, they both start.
No, the only thing I'll say about that, the Baylor game, he only played 5 minutes, so it was only 5 minutes. I mean, it wasn't like he was.
Yeah, but what happened to the score in those 5 minutes?
I don't know. I'd have to look at the exact time he was in the game.
They cut the score. They cut the lead in half.
Yeah. Right. So I will say this. So Roger was talking about this in the text, and I actually watched the Oklahoma game back completely because I got pieces of it when I was stopped.
Josh?
Yeah, it said host has muted your mic. So, I will say that when I was driving down the middle of Georgia, I got some of it. So I watched the whole thing back. And I am not having technical difficulties. You're not even on the screen.
I can hear you perfectly, Josh. You keep going.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. And this is why I hope you're hearing this in the car or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Sometimes the YouTube version should be fun. And that was no bro that we get in the notes. Okay, back to your regularly scheduled programming. I rewatched the Oklahoma game, and Nils in the first half, minus 1 or 2 defensive pieces, was pretty good. I'm not saying it was great. It wasn't Allen, but enough where you feel like you could put him in at 9 minutes or 9:30 and get a minute and a half of him, maybe 2 minutes. So the under 8, you can pull him back out. He definitely at times gets lost on defense. I mean, anyone who watches tape or watches it knowing and thinking of these things, if you hone in on watching him defend, he does get lost at times. That will come with time. He freshman, but there are like his 3-point stroke is really fast. Like he is really really good with a quick release.
What I don't like about since you talked about his 3-point shot, and I don't mean, again, I'm not anti-Niels. I just don't think he's ready.
I agree.
Right.
I agree.
But and his 3-point shot, what I don't like about it is he brings it way down before he brings it up to shoot.
Yeah.
So it's got to be, good 3-point shooters. You see them in their motion. They never bring it down below or near their hips. They catch it up here when they catch and shoot. Then they set up from here.
Yeah. The pocket has to be a little bit higher. You can't you can't catch it that low and go. But when he catches it kind of in that pocket area, as I'm mimicking it, like I'm actually going to shoot a 3 right now. But when you catch it and you go right up, he's that motion is a lot faster than a lot of others. And I'm certain in practice he is getting pretty consistently good shots off. I mean, they're you can see it there, but I do agree with you, Roger. There are times where he's just not back on defense, or he's getting confused with switch ups, or he's going under a pick and roll instead of trying. He's not going to force his way through the top of a pick and pop or a pick and roll. I just don't see that yet. He needs to build up some more strength. I would bet. I agree with you for the second half in Oklahoma. In the second half of that game, when I watched it back, I'm like, now I see what you're talking about. First half was pretty good. There was a couple times he was really out towards the 3-point line and got confused, almost picked his own teammate off almost. But the second half was not that good.
Well, on the other part offensively, especially if you have Allen out, right? I really noticed it in Cincinnati, and I noticed it at Baylor, right? When Allen is out, you have 2 primary ball handlers. Now, Chi got a little bit of time and showed that he could do that at Baylor, right?
Yeah.
But when he's out, you've got DJ and Sellers. And so if you need to sit and spell either DJ or Sellers, then what the opposing defenses were doing were trapping the ball handler because they knew they didn't have to worry about it. Yeah. And if Niels got the ball, he doesn't have the handles at all to be able to be the primary ball handler at this level. And let me say this, right? If we were in the AAC, we might be having a different discussion. He's just not there yet. I'm not saying he's bad. He's shooting 31% right now. Part of that is him getting used to playing at this level of basketball. Listen, I played when I was 15 and I was playing against semi-pro people, right? And I will tell you that does get in your head a little bit. I can imagine what it is at 18 and you're playing the likes of, Baylor and Texas and Oklahoma. He's very well aware of who he's playing against. And there is a head game. Just like in football, when you go from from high school to freshman, it takes them a minute to adjust to the speed of the game. It's a whole nother level, and you're playing juniors and seniors and transfer players and people being paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to these basketball teams. These are the creme de la creme of college basketball. No matter what you want to say, the Big 12 Conference is the creme de la creme. And those players that you're playing against, it's a little intimidating as an 18-year-old. You know what I mean? So, all right, let's get off Nils. Let's get off of Nils here and talk a little bit about a more positive experience. Okay, I would totally say something right now, but we're a clean show, and I'm going to keep it that way, Josh. Be glad, listeners, you aren't looking at the private chat right now. That being said, let's talk a little bit about OU.
Before we move on to OU, you mind if I just say one more thing before we move on to OU?
Okay.
Because I really want to. I mean, I definitely want to. I just want to highlight because you mentioned his stat line, and it just makes the Baylor game that much weirder, in my opinion. Just the stats are so strange compared to the outcome. But I thought you mentioned the stat line. I thought Darius Johnson potentially had his best game in a UCF uniform against Baylor. Like it was kind of like special, and it was just upsetting that it was upsetting that game happened in a loss. Like because he was just he just kind of looked totally in control. Like, I mean, he was just a really high level basketball player in that game. He had four turnovers, but he also had 10 assists to balance that out. And then I think that and to help you transition back into OU, because I know we need to move on. Like that, I think that propelled him to almost an equal, if not better, performance during the Oklahoma game. It really kind of set the stage. And I'm very happy for him because obviously he struggled the 2 games after he lost his grandfather, struggled mightily. And for him to these 2 games that he's had most recently, just really happy for him that he has been able to kind of turn it around. But man, like if he can, now that Shemari Allen is back, like, and he can continue this high level of play, like that backcourt. Like it's funny because we're not even talking about Sellers, like probably the best scorer on our team.
Pressure off of Sellers.
I mean, it's just wild the potential that we can reach as a team, and it's like it's just exciting stuff, man. So let's move on to Oklahoma. Let's talk about the happy stuff. But it's crazy though. It's like we might look back at that Baylor game like a few weeks from now when March is about to start, like. We might look back at that Baylor game and be like, all right, that was really the like breakout that Darius Johnson like kind of took off with this team. And that's the reason why hopefully we're talking about the success that UCF basketball has. So I'm going to
all right. For those of you that are not watching the show on YouTube, I am crossing my fingers because I hope you're 100% right on that.
Man.
Agreed.
All right. So transitioning
short.
What?
So I was going to say he's 3 rebounds short from a triple double. I mean that doesn't usually happen in college basketball all that often. But anyway, yeah. Let's get to Oklahoma.
So we will officially get to Oklahoma now that Josh has got the last word. So let's talk about Oklahoma. Much better outcome. And I'll say this about that players. Every player is going to have an off night. For me, I know Ben was kind of giving me a hard time about this too. Chi had an off night. And he's a good player. He's a really.
You're leading the Oklahoma discussion with who had the off night. My goodness, Roger.
And I'll tell you why. and here's what I'll tell you why. We didn't need Chi. We've needed Chi the last 3 to 4 games. You get Allen back, and you look at the front court, right? And you look at the back court, and look what they did. And they didn't need Chi. We didn't need that spark. The players that we needed offensively to be consistent are starting to build consistency, right? So Sellers, consistent. At the beginning of the season, out of conference, he was really, really strong. He built up a big narrative around him, and he was doing really, really well offensively. Didn't need him. Get into conference season. Sellers has a little bit of a spell of a few bad games. DJ has a spell of a few bad games. We needed Chi to kind of step up to keep us competitive, and he did that. This game, we didn't need him, right? The guys seem to be finding a rhythm. DJ has found his 3-point shot again. He was kind of sporadic, but no OC. He was out of conference. I keep saying OOC. Out of conference, he was pretty – he wasn't a world beater, but he was hitting, 32, 35%. Then he, like in conference, that went away. And then now he's starting to find his groove again. Sellers is finding his groove consistently, and we didn't need them. So if Chi has an off night, pull him, right? Sit him on the bench, give the breather, and let him do that. The one thing I would have liked to seen out of Chi this game would have been to see him drive the paint, because he can do that consistently, and I didn't see him do that. He has provided a 3-point shot in previous games. It just wasn't his night from 3, and he was 0 for 5, and that's fine. He's got good enough ball handling. He's tall enough that he can go and drive the paint. And I wish he would have done a little bit more about that. But that's enough about Chi. Other than that, as far as the Oklahoma game was concerned, 74-63 win. Oklahoma tried to make some runs there. They did, but we answered. We stayed consistent with our answers, right? And that's kind of what we've missed in previous games that we've lost is we'll go on runs, they'll go on runs, and then we just don't come back. We consistently took their runs and continued to build on the lead. UCF led from start to finish this game, which is amazing. They had at one point a 17-point lead on Oklahoma, right? Sellers led the way. He had 20 points. So again, you were not talking about Sellers, but this game he quietly led the team with 20 points. Antoine Jones, who seems to be finally starting to find his groove and where he fits. Remember, folks, he was out with injury. He didn't play a lot. Last few games he's been coming on stronger, and he contributed 15. And most importantly, he came out of the locker room and was on fire from the 3-point range. So having another 3-point threat stretches the defense and allows you to do a lot of other things, whether it's if you want to go inside, or doesn't allow people to double team, doesn't allow traps. Because if you can stretch the floor and you've got another 3-point shooter out there, they're not able to focus on those people. So that's going to be really important going forward. And he was energy. He was a lot of energy. Darius, 14 points this game. Again, 8 assists. So 14 points, 8 assists. Again, that assist to turnover ratio is key. You hear me talk about that a lot. We kept our turnovers low in this game. I believe it was 11 turnovers in this game. If it's below 15, we've got a chance. Just remember that, right? UCF held OU to their second lowest total of the year. And one thing I love to see, and I've seen them start to do this the past few games, is when they need to lock in or when they're defensively, they're slapping the floor together. And you kind of saw it the last couple of games. First, it was like 3 people doing it, and then someone like, oh, yeah, we got to slap the floor. Now they did it in unison, and I think that's great for the fans. I think it's great for their confidence, and it's a way to focus. And believe it or not, I learned today on the dungeon, since you mentioned that earlier, ucfsports.com. Check it out. Brandon Helwig, he's amazing. The original, like where that comes from for Donnie Dawkins, Johnny Dawkins team
matching up to
is from Duke at his time at Duke, because they used to do that at Duke. Now we've actually had it with previous coaches at UCF sporadically as well. Kirk Spiraw used to do that as well. But for this team and where that genesis of it is, I love it because it causes them to lock down. It's got to be intimidating offensively because it's pretty loud, and it just shows that togetherness and locking that defense down. UCF, difference in this game, we got to the line all night 32 times. 32 times, folks. It's a lot better than 7, and we made 28 of them, which is a lot better than 1 and 7.
Amazing. Yeah,
that's the key.
28 points.
That's
but
amazing.
The thing was, you heard Oklahoma's coach talk about it post-game presser. You heard BJ, because he was on the call for this one too, talk about it. The difference between Baylor and this game was they drove the paint, and Sellers did an amazing job of getting there and then finishing with his free throws. You heard the players talk about it, how they focused on that again this week. UCF had 17 fast break points compared to OU's 9. We were getting turnovers from the get. I mean, they were in the passing lanes. They were making it very, very difficult for OU to set up anything, right? And it turned into points. UCF limited OU to 37% shooting this game. And quite frankly, they just outperformed them defensively. Rebounding, it was actually pretty even. OU had a run there where we had some guys out, and when we were switching guys out, OU did pretty well, but they shut their big down, who's actually pretty good. It held him, I think it was like 2 or 3 points, or 5 points, excuse me, and just shut him down on both sides of the floor. 12 steals in this game. 12 steals,
Yeah,
9
stat. 12
blocks.
steals is big time, yeah.
Yeah. So, it's pretty freaking amazing. If you get 12 steals in a game, that's amazing. It turned into 15 turnovers to OU. It felt like it was more, but those 15 turnovers turned into 16 points. You can't do it. And 26 points in the paint versus OU's 28 points in the paint. Again, we talked about what Baylor's was. It was a whole lot less, half of points in the paint there. So, largest lead 17. This was a complete victory. It was a lot of fun to watch. This team felt in control the entire game. Offensively, we didn't go on a 4 or 5 minute drought, which was helpful and a lot less frustrating to watch. And it was just a great team win. And to me, it showed a progression in that we're building consistency and we're able to get out of the breaks early, and we're learning how to maintain that and sustain that throughout the game. All right. First time caller. I'm going to hang up.
Yeah, I mean, you said a lot there. I got a few things to add to it. We had 9 blocks as a team, as you mentioned. Most of those blocks just came at really big time moments of the game. I got to give a shout out to Omar Payne. I kind of came down on him last week. He did not have a very good game at Cincinnati. Neither did Diallo, that got into foul trouble, all that stuff. He's been the type of guy that was the starting center all throughout out of conference. And he's obviously, with the emergence of Diallo, has settled into more of a bench role. But there's been a couple of times in this early conference season, or the first half of this conference season, because we are at the halfway point now, where he has struggled, like for stretches of the game. But he definitely stepped up in this game. Didn't have a huge stat line, but his impact on the game, in my opinion, doesn't really show up completely in the stats, or the stats don't tell the full story. But the stat that does tell the story of his game is his 4 blocks. I mean, 4 blocks is a big time stat for a center, especially one coming off the bench, getting 17 points in this game. He had one stretch in the second half where it looked like Oklahoma could do something, or we were at least trying to shut the door on him. And he had this nasty block. And then I forget who got it. It was maybe Shemari Allen or something, but got the ball off the block shot and takes it down the court. And Omar Payne really runs the floor well. And he gets reward. I was so happy for him that he got rewarded by a nice little pass from, I believe it was Shemari Allen, and he dunks it home. He dunks it home. I mean, it was a very pivotal moment in that game. It kind of it shut down any type of momentum that OU thought they could have. And I think it was a demoralizing moment for OU. And that kind of brings me to one of the main things that I was so excited to see about this game. We took now granted we're at home. Obviously we got the momentum, we got the juice from the crowd, I guess, at home. But I mean, we took a team that's top 25 team, and it's just kind of funny to talk about it like, a top 25 team, like it's not, it is a huge win, but it's almost.
Think about it in the AAC. We get a win over a top 25 team in the AAC, and we're
right. Maybe that's what it is, Roger. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. It just seems because it seems like every night we're playing a top 25 team now. But to win wire to wire like that, this game, in my opinion, was never in doubt. We kind of jumped on them early, and then just continue to show them that we are the better team on this night. And then I watched back the cinematic recap that UCF social media, which does such a great job with, that did on this game, and it shows Johnny Dawkins' pregame speech, and what he kept preaching to the team, and he reiterated at halftime is, it's not enough. It's not enough to just knock on the door. We got to go kick it in. And I think that type of phrase just kind of sums up the demeanor coming out of the Baylor gloss. And hey guys, the time for hey, we fought in this game and, we came up short, but man, it shows we're right there, right? Like not that Johnny has ever said that to himself, to his coaches, to his players, certainly.
No moral
But
victories.
But yeah, there's no moral victories. But like, I think he summed it up really well in that phrase, saying like that, like cutesy time's over. Like we're not here to just compete. We're here to win, and we're here to impose our will and show them the type of brand of basketball that we're about. And by them, I mean the rest of the Big 12. And now that we're going into our second half of this conference season, I think the Oklahoma game is like a statement to put the rest of the league on notice that like the first, these first games they're not a fluke. Like we're coming back at you guys and you're gonna see us for the second time, and it's not gonna be, you're not going to get an advantage just by seeing us the second time. Like we're going to take the advantage by seeing you the second time. And I was just proud of the way that they not only played hard and imposed their will on Oklahoma, but they just executed very well on both ends of the floor. And I hope to God that's a great sign of good things to come, because we got 9 more opportunities, that most of which are going to be quad 1, quad 2 opportunities. And we got a chance here to really build a resume towards March, and who knows what could happen. I mean, we may not win a game in conference the rest of the year, and this might be an aberration at this point, but it doesn't mean that right now that the opportunities aren't in front of us that are massive. I mean, massive. It's really exciting.
So I think, one of the things that you kind of pointed out there was it's almost a pivot. Kind of, you felt it in the fan expectations, and now you're seeing it in the team, in the sense that we're pivoting away from, hey, we just want to prove that we can compete, or, even our expectations at the beginning of the season. Yeah. We talked about it. We said 4 wins, and in your text, you said, well, we got our 4 wins, right, in conference. So we do, and we're actually sitting in conference the exact same record as Oklahoma. And here's a crazy thing. I was looking at the net rankings, right? We moved up to 67. Oklahoma moved up after the loss by 3 spots. Now, what does that tell you about UCF basketball and where we are today if they can lose to UCF convincingly, 74-63, and move up 3 spots? That means they're putting some respect on our name and this team and how it's playing. So, that's, to me, said more about this season than anything else that we've talked about this entire time. Is if the net rankings go up by 3 after a loss to UCF, Oklahoma, a ranked Oklahoma, losing to UCF, I don't know. That tells me a lot. And by the way, real quick, before Josh, you get your opportunity to speak here. One thing you mentioned was UCF's social media team, that cinematic thing that they put together. As someone who owns a marketing company and has a production company and does production, Eric DeSalvo, if you're listening, please continue having whoever that is, because I saw them running with the camera at like leg level, that's getting those shots of the guys at floor level when they're going in and jamming or getting a turnover or whatever. That adds so much more than the typical above the rim shot or high shot. So it just feels more real. So if you're going cinematic, keep that going. All right, Josh Lazar. Now that I've told Eric how to do his job, go ahead and say what you're going to say about this game.
So a couple things. I'll yes and that last part too. In that video montage, I liked everything about it. The video with everyone at the end, and one of the shots I actually liked a lot was someone either with a drone at the top of the back looking over the entire arena, like facing the student section, there's some really wide shots back there looking down, and those looked really, really good. Too, plus the side shots I saw with all like the
Amazing.
streamers.
When the students show up, you could do shots like that.
Well, I know that.
It was that
colors
atmosphere
of the
is
smoke.
insane this year. Like that's awesome. Shout out to the fans. I mean, the atmosphere has been nuts. This is awesome.
Well, and it's in the
Ben, would you like to play in front of crowds like that?
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, we played in just in front of packed arenas, but the old venue, I guess, like call it now the venue. We didn't call it then. The old UCF arena just couldn't seat that many. So yeah.
I don't even think it sat like 2,000.
No, it was like 5,000 at like 5,500 at its max. Like that Troy State game, the Belmont game, probably my sophomore year probably had about 5,500.
Yeah, the Troy is not a state, but I was there. So all of that was good. Yes, it's good when the students are there, and truthfully, when Memphis would show up, we'd get a packed house at this current arena.
Still not full like that though.
There's a couple of times. I know there's been a couple of times I did some of the research on it, but not like consistently every single time. Some of it is because we're playing people we're not going to play often. Some of it is because people like to watch us against top 25 teams, and
we're competitive.
Yeah, and we're competitive in all of them. I mean, we've been competitive in probably every single game. I say Houston is slightly, at the end it was kind of trailing off. Kansas State away, away games are not as
all right. So bold prediction here. Yeah. Hot take, flaming hot, flame broiled grilled take. We will beat Houston the next time we play them.
Yes, right on. Yes. At home, it is really hard to beat us. Even that Baylor game was weird, but I just have a feeling. I really do. I mean, the BYU game was the Stetson game was kind of weird. I was at a couple of those. So I have this feeling, yes, if we have everyone healthy. Let me put that caveat out there.
Quit putting asterisks on there. We're going to beat them. All right. Thoughts on Oklahoma?
Okay, so on the Oklahoma game, as a whole, there was so many good things that I liked. It was kind of building and building and building and building. There was some wonderful defense all over the place. 32 free throws attempts is great, but we hit them. And I know you talked about that right at the top, but hitting them is a big deal. And I don't mean just like 70%. We missed 4. And that's it's a difference in the game. I believe if I was looking at it right, the difference between free throws between us and them were 18 to 28, just about made free throws. And we both only missed 4 between the two teams. 4 each. So that is the difference of the game. I mean, they had more field goal attempts than us and equal field goals made. So the free throws are big, but it really didn't feel like when rewatching it that this game was at any time after I knew he won, right? That it didn't look like there was at any point.
All right, Josh, I don't know what just happened to your audio, but you're having technical difficulties.
Really? Are you serious?
There you go. Now you're back.
Now you're back.
Okay. I think I know what it is. Thank you. But in all seriousness, it is great to see us beat both of the outgoing teams leaving for the SEC. A, B, the UCF Knights media that had the charge on with the OU upside down. That was amazing. That was one of the best graphics, and every Oklahoma State fan loved it too.
I thought you were I thought you were talking about Ben's bubbles there.
I like that too.
Yeah. So the other thing, Fear the Fronds turned into horns down at the end, and we had SVP in the house because the NFL had its Pro Bowl festivities in the field house. So SVP was on hand to watch that. He looked like he was having a great time. Gus went over and talked to him. So that's always good And SVP has by and large been pretty positive towards UCF from a football perspective and basketball perspective. And as we transition out of the Oklahoma talk, another thing that was super exciting and another person who was there was Mikel Brown Jr., ranked number 15 nationally, 6'3", 5-star point guard out of Atlanta. And he's a class of 2025 prospect at the game, has a lot of close ties to Johnny Dawkins, believe it or not. And realistically, we are in the mix. So, this is the second 5-star that we've been talking about around this program. And just having guys like that being around the program is huge. Obviously, we're talking about the recent transfer. I can't remember his name, the guy from TikTok or YouTube or whatever.
Mikey
Williams, yes. Mikey Williams. Yeah. Well, he has like 3 million followers. So.
Yeah, I know. Yells at the guy from TikTok sounds like an old guy thing.
Yeah. Well, I do have some gray hair in my beard. We didn't have TikTok when I went to college.
Sure.
And the content I would have created then probably would have gotten me banned. So that being said, with Mikey Williams there and the other recruits that we have in the pipeline, if we start landing some of these recruits, I think we're starting to see the Big 12 effect, because no way would he have been on campus. And if he was, he wouldn't have taken us seriously. And rumors are that he is taking us seriously. No way would we have had that. So that's huge. We had a lot of football recruits there as well for a packed house and a big win. Next week, I know, Ben, you said this is the halfway point of the season. Actually, next week I was going to do a half-year review on where we thought we were. But I think I'm going to ask this each week. Is UCF a tourney team?
So
a lot of eye rolls.
It's hard to say. I think that we're playing like one. Let's put it that way. We're playing like one. Yeah. But we need the thing
we're
about
playing
the
like a Sweet 16 team right now. In my opinion,
if you can. But the thing is, so to not to get too deep into the net and all that stuff, but like the best thing that we have going for us right now, I think, is we only have one quad 3 or quad 4 loss. Like we're clean on the besides that Stetson, which honestly, if the committee is if we can make it to that bubble conversation and the committee is taking a really hard look at UCF, I think that they can kind of chalk up that Stetson loss. And the reason why I think that is because Stetson just shot out of their mind in that game and they couldn't miss. So but I don't want to talk about that game. But so we're clean on the back half of the quad 3, quad 4 losses, right? So we've got nothing but wins except for that one anomaly. Now, everything in front of us, with the exception of potentially Oklahoma State, as we talked about in the chat, are quad 1, quad 2 games. And potentially that Oklahoma State game could be a quad 2 game easy if they have a couple more wins before we play them on the road. And so the opportunities are in front of us. If we can win of the 9 games, I believe we have 9 games left in conference. If we can win 4 more, we get to 8 conference wins, potentially what, 5 quad 1 wins potentially, like in that mix, like that. I mean, that's starting. You're starting to talk about a bubble team. If for some way we can have a winning record the rest of the way, we get 5 more. I'm not saying that we're going to do that. I'm just saying that, like, I feel like we get 5 more conference wins, we're a lot.
I think if we go 500 the rest of the way and win 1, maybe 2 Big 12 tournament games, that's a lock. It's over.
100% a lock. And it's exciting that we're sitting here in the first week of February, like really having this conversation. And it's not just a pipe dream conversation. It's a real one. Like, because nobody on this pod, or I mean, the most diehard UCF basketball fans would have been really serious about talking about that in September, October of last year before the season started. I mean, it's just great what this team has been able to put together and what they've been able to talk to. And last thing I'll say about I'm not going to get into Mikel Brown Jr. I hope he does pick UCF, but man, we've already got a couple great commitments in 2024 and 2025, so we are really building some good things. Got four-star point guard committed in the 2024 season. We have a 4-star center in the 25 season already committed. A lot can happen between now and then, but the future is bright as far as recruiting goes, and it's just going to keep getting better when we keep showing that we can compete in the Big 12.
And we're spending NIL money now,
which
we weren't in the past on basketball. That was a big change. Josh, did you have anything?
No, I'm good.
All right, awesome.
Let's keep going.
All right, let's talk about the UCF football schedule. We've got a lot to talk about UCF football. The schedule dropped since our last show. UCF has 5 home games on this schedule, which is awesome. We start off with the spring game, April 12th. So make sure, we start getting some buzz around the spring game around that. And also, Ben, while we're talking about, games, when is the baseball?
The baseball home opener is February 24th. So
all right, there we go. It's right around the corner. So make sure you go support the team. So first game, August 29th, our traditional Thursday home opener against the New Hampshire Wildcats. I'd say that's a dub. Yeah, no, we're talking football now, not baseball.
Oh, sorry.
We're back to football, Josh.
Also,
but I don't think we play.
Baseball
I don't
is
think
coming
we have
up in 2 seconds. Come on,
baseball. I don't think we have Siena on the schedule anymore because.
No, I'm sorry. It's February 16th. I shorted them 6 days, so it's February 16th. Starting off with Bryant. You're right. We don't start off with Siena like we have the last 20 years.
Yeah. So there was a big tiff between our ex-baseball coach and their baseball coach that kind of led to that. That being said, back to football for Josh. New Hampshire Wildcats. I'd say that's a dub. Should be an entertaining Thursday night game. It's a TBA, but make sure you make it out for that. Then we have next up the Sam Houston Bearcats. I didn't know they were the Bearcats, but they're the Bearcats with a K. So truly the Bear Kittens. After that, our first Big 12 game will be at TCU. We will be playing them. I'm excited about that game. That's a raucous environment there too. For those of you that are going, they have really, really nice football facilities, and it's something that we are actually used a lot of modeling for the survey that we had recently that we mentioned, and for the design of the entranceway to the football area. Colorado Buffaloes. So we have a week off on the 21st, September the 21st, and we've got Colorado Buffaloes. We should know if Dion has fallen on his face or not by then. That's September 28th at home. So that should be an exciting game to watch. Then we travel to Ben Hill Griffin Stadium to go play the Florida Gators. And then after that, October 12th, we're back home to play the other Bear Kittens. So we played 2 Bearcats spelled different ways this season. So there's your fun fact of the week. Then we're at Iowa State Cyclones, which is in October. So it could be worse. I wish we would have played them earlier. It could be worse in the dead of winter, but it'll be chilly. Then we come back home to play the BYU Cougars. So hopefully we even the series with them there. Arizona at home again for Arizona Wildcats. And again, we if you notice these back-to-back road games, we don't have those. So again, this is way better for us as far as schedule is concerned. Then we play at Arizona, so we can hitch a ride with the Wildcats back home and play the Sun Devils at Arizona State, which should be interesting because the Arizona teams, they, One was doing not so well. The other one was doing well, but they lost their coach and a lot of players. So we'll see how that goes. But it's a pack game in the Big 12. So our first, first two pack games in the Big 12. Then we're off November 16th. We play at West Virginia. And then we have the Utes at home. So we're playing more pack teams than we are traditional Big 12 teams, but I'll take it. Those are all good games. And Utah is going to be difficult. So, and then we're going to the Big 12 championship on December 7th. So there you go. I'm calling it now. What do you guys think of the schedule? What games are you excited about? What do you think about the Florida game? And then we'll kind of give our way too early preseason prediction. What do you think, Ben?
Well, I'm excited about the schedule. I think that it's pretty back. I don't want to call it necessarily backloaded. It's backloaded with a lot of traveling on the back half of the season, which is interesting. We don't leave the state of Florida but once in the first 7 weeks of the season. So that's good that we kind of get to kind of stay closer to home to kind of settle in and see what this team is all about. We have a lot of returners. We'll hopefully start off the season very strong and continue that through. I'm excited about the West Virginia game at the end of the season. I wish it wasn't at the end of the season. I am going to that game with my family. My brother-in-law went to West Virginia. He's from West Virginia, so the moment that UCF joined the Big 12, we were kind of circling the first at West Virginia game as one that we were all going to go.
So was that a net positive or a net negative to the Stout family gene pool?
Well, he's a fantastic guy, and he's about 6'8". He's a big dude as well, so he definitely didn't water down the gene pool at all. That's for sure. That's for sure. So,
you notice he started with he's a nice guy.
But no, yeah, he so going to that game with my family is going to be a lot of fun. I just wish it wasn't in the week before Thanksgiving. I wish, because I'm going to be freezing my butt off up there in West Virginia. But also planning on going to the Florida game. Those are my two, I guess if you can call the Florida game a road trip, those are my two road trips that I'm excited to go to this year. But overall, I mean, I think this schedule is certainly not an easy one for us, because the Big 12, moving forward, it's not going to be easy in a year playing in a power conference that we're playing in. But I think it bodes really well that if we can start off the season, going into the at Iowa State game undefeated, we got to be talking about a really high ranking at that point, just because of the way that early schedule, kind of sets up for us. If we're able to go into Gainesville after beating Colorado, who knows what we're going to get from Colorado, but they're going to be pretty hyped up this year, they're going to be for the next few years.
Yeah,
and so that'll be an interesting game. Who knows? Maybe Colorado, I don't know what their early schedule is like, but maybe they surprise a few people, in that September 28th game at UCF at home is a game day game just because ESPN wants to have it that way. Yeah. So we'll take it. We'll take Dion any way we can get it, I guess. But definitely backloaded in the sense that we're playing Arizona in November. We're finishing off the season with Utah coming into our stadium. I think it's a backloaded schedule that I hope high stakes are involved once we line up against Utah.
2 bye weeks, interestingly enough, 4 existing Big 12 teams, 4 incoming packed teams. So we get to play a half Big 12 schedule, a half Pac 12 schedule.
That's pretty cool.
Which is, I think, is awesome.
That's really neat.
I mean, thinking about where we were when I was going to school, you know, in 99 to like the 2000s, and then seeing those names on our schedule. I mean, I feel like this season, like last season, it was a transition year. We were the new kids on the block. It didn't quite feel like we belonged. But this year, like seeing a second year of this type of schedule, to me, for some reason, it's settling in more that like we are. And I think basketball helps with this too. I think that it feels more like we're Big 12 members and not just lucky to be here kind of thing. I don't know if that makes
true,
sense.
Man.
Yeah.
No, I think that makes perfect sense. That's exactly. It's kind of funny that you said it that way because I guess I hadn't really thought about it like that. But no, you're absolutely right. It like maybe that's what I was thinking looking at the football schedule as well. It just kind of feels like it's just more of a. It's like we're not thinking we're Power 5. Like, hey, we're not newcomers anymore. We're a power conference team, and that's just the way we are moving forward. And like you said, I think the performance of the basketball team probably helps us with that. But certainly, second year in the Big 12 in football and all the other sports that are going to come with it, I think it kind of slams home that feeling.
All right, Josh.
Oh man, I'm excited. I'm excited, and I think it's going to be a really good year, like a 10-win year or 10-win plus year. So, a couple of things that excite me about the schedule, and to Ben's point, there aren't going to be enough tickets for the game in Gainesville. There just aren't. I went to the one of the games. I think the last game was 2005. I went to that game. It was not fun. And it was, I don't know if you've ever been in the corners of Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. Like, I was probably 30 or 40 pounds lighter than I am now, and I was squished. So that's going to be fun. I want to go to that game. We'll see what happens. Also, I might be doing a combo trip to go to Chicago and meet up with some friends and then drive down to the Iowa State game. I have some friends here locally who went to school in Ames, and that seems like that could be fun too. I don't know if it's too late to go on the Golly or the New Rivers, but the West Virginia game looked like I can potentially, with some friends, go some whitewater rafting on top of all that too. So that might be up for me too. And you're right. The end of the year is interesting. You know, when I was a bit younger, having the actually still kind of works now, having the 5 weeks in the month to get a bigger paycheck when you're on a 26 pay schedule, right? That's what November feels like. There's an off week and there's still 4 games. And those games are all like big games. It's mostly it's like 3 of the former Pac games. So I have a question. That Utah game, I agree with you. Did he put Josh is going to be couch burning in West Virginia?
Yes, I said Josh is going couch burning.
I want to go whitewater rafting in West Virginia, which Golly River is pretty fun. So I have a question. That Utah game is going to be huge. I mean, I hope it's for a shot at a Big 12 championship. We'll see how that works. Is that a bigger Black Friday or Black Friday weekend game than a game against the Cows? What do you think?
Only if it's win and get into the Big 12 championship. If I put that caveat on it, I would say because of what that'll mean potentially, like if we're playing for the Big 12 championship, like through that Utah game, like that would mean that we probably only have maybe 1 loss at the most going into that game. And that means that we're talking real implications, not just New Year's 6 implications. We're talking about even further than that potential implications. Then yes, then I'd answer it yes. But otherwise, if we're just, even if there's a mathematical chance, like a slight outside mathematical chance, I still don't think it's as big as USF in that season, in the 2017 season.
Well, here's the thing, right? That gets me about all of this, right? where's Houston? Houston was supposed to be our permanent rival that was on rivalry week and all
Oh,
this
that's
stuff.
fair.
So,
Yeah.
like, I guess the Big 12 just threw that out the window. And I'm happy about that, by the way, because I don't see Houston football as our rival. I mean, we did get their coach fired, but, I don't see that ever being a rivalry. So it's interesting and a sign of the times, is rivalry weekend for the Big 12? Who's that going to be? And is this just, hey, this is how the scheduling works? Or is this an indication, because Utah has consistently been good over the past like 3 to 5 years because of their coach who's still there? Is this an indication of expectations that the Big 12 has of us? So that's super interesting to me that Houston is not on the schedule. So I guess the space game will have to wait. Star Wars. Oh, there should be a play. UCF, if you're listening, there's got to be a Star Wars space game play there when we're playing Houston, right? So just make that work somehow magically. It's interesting to me that Houston's not on there because they were supposed to be our quote unquote permanent rival. So I guess that's out of the window.
Yeah, Arizona is our space game this year, November 2nd.
Yeah. And when that came out, there was a lot of social media about Arizona should beware of that, and they didn't kind of understand or get it. So that was fun because we've never lost one, and I don't think one has been ever like really, 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 really close. Maybe like 7 points at the end, but they've been all pretty big games. And
Arizona lost their head coach, so we'll see how that works. You know what I mean? Because they did really, really well last year in preseason.
Well, yeah.
And they still have They still have a decent amount of their team back this year too. Even though they did lose their head coach, they were able to retain some of their players that are key players from last year. So, yeah, that Arizona game is still going to be real tough. And you're right, Josh. We certainly have never lost, and we don't make a habit of putting games close in the space game. So that's a tough opponent coming in here to make the space game. So it'll be interesting.
So we go back to Tempe without having to make the Fiesta Bowl. So that's interesting, right? There's so many storylines on this. I'm happy that we have 2 bye weeks this time. I'm happy that we have 5 home games this year in conference. Let me say that about that, because we have the 5, and then we actually have 7 home games this year because of New Hampshire and the mini-me Bear Kittens. So I am excited about the schedule, and I think there's so much, and you've got a Florida game this year.
Yeah.
Like, this is, to me, the most exciting schedule we've ever had. We get to play Pac-12 teams, and I know that will change over the years, right? As this progresses, but as of 2024, this is the most exciting schedule we've ever played, and we get to go play the Gators. So for me, what makes it even more exciting is coming out of the season, like when the season ended, I didn't know how much better than mediocre we were going to be. But we've made some moves, both on the coaching staff perspective and from the player perspective out of the transfer portal to win now. And the Gators are having a down year. I think this is the last year of the Napier experiment. It would be nice if we could get him fired too, because that would be 3 coaches in a row that we got fired. So, I'm excited about that Florida game. I think we go into the swamp and I think we beat them. KJ Jefferson has done it before. We haven't a high-powered offense, but I'm more excited that we have a reasonable defense. And I believe our defense will have a great improvement. So other than the wide receivers, it'll be interesting to see how we do this year. But I'm excited about this. I'm excited about this schedule. It's good places. It's a good mix of Pac-12 teams, which we don't really play. We played Stanford before. We were supposed to play Washington, didn't end up playing them. There was a big controversy around that. Apparently, we turned a Washington game down. But we're getting Pac-12 teams anyway. And it feels like we are a Power 5 team this year. We are a Power 5 program or Power 4 program. That's right. Power 4 program this year. So now the expectations go up. Hey, Ben. So, now the expectations go up, right? Like it's like, all right, it's no longer good enough to play these teams and win. Now it's time to win a conference. So all that being said, what are your guys' way too early preseason predictions for this team? And what their record will be. Ben, I'll start with you. And by the way, we go 1-0 in the spring game. Just saying.
We're definitely going to go 1-0 in the spring game. They going to stream that thing or what? I don't know about that.
Probably not.
Yeah, I'll say we're a. I don't know where. Don't ask me where the losses come from, but I'm going to say 9-3 is our. Is that that up right? Is that we have 12 games, right?
Yeah, it's 12 games. For the regular season, I'm going to be ultra optimistic. We should have a lot coming back. It would be great to have Hudson and Baker, but we don't. I think some offense will step up. KJ Jefferson's going to be amazing. I'm going 10-2. I mean, I really
stole my thunder, Josh, because that's what I was going. I said you stole my thunder.
It feels like that is amazing to say, right? Forget the 6 and 7 from last year. Even when we were pretty darn good in the American, a 10-win season happened a good amount of time, but wasn't just like a given. It just feels like momentum's there, or we have a lot of the pieces of the puzzle that should be good. Even though we're like 101 in returning offense and defense, or some statistic I saw recently, it just feels like it should be right. I mean, maybe Jefferson is the second coming of Cam Newton, and we all hope so, because the reality is
he going to steal a computer?
I mean, he did do that when he won a national championship. But
just wanted to make sure we got the right references. We're playing the Gators this year.
Yeah. But the reality is there is a shot to do some amazing things. And honestly, Jefferson has to prove he can be a top 10 pick. I mean, he has every incentive. Forget the financials that are coming in now, which might be like the $400,000 for someone who has the shot of making $20 million on the first contract is a drop in the bucket. But to get there, you have to play like your hair's on fire, as we used as a phrase with Gus when he first came here. So,
well, he used it. He coined it.
We all want him to. I mean, it's good for us. It's good for him. We'll see what happens, but 10-2, that's my gut right now.
All right. Gus Malzahn is pissed off that he had his first losing record last season, and his press conference that he did when he announced the changes that he was making, was pissed off, wanted a change in culture, wanted a change in attitude, and that was the biggest thing Trey and everybody else on this podcast was talking about, is what that bench looked like. They made changes. They made changes for a reason. And Ted Roof is a hard-nosed football coach. So defensively, they aren't going to have to motivate themselves. So I'm excited about that. Whether you think he's a good addition or not, from a cultural perspective, it's more towards the O'Leary type of thought process when you're talking about that and building that toughness and that mental toughness. We have the two Cincinnati transfers, Pace and Threats, and the third transfer that I can't remember. But all three of those transfers are guys that meet guys at the line of scrimmage. We're going to be more aggressive defensively, and we're not going to wait for the running backs to get to us to the second level. So I am going to say 10-2, and I'm going to say that confidently. I don't know what we're going to get out of Arizona. Iowa State's going to be interesting. West Virginia was a lot better than they were supposed to be last year. So we'll see what they have this year. That guy's still coaching for his job, and Utah's always tough. And I believe they're bringing their quarterback back this year that played really well the year before last. So I think we beat the Gators. I think we beat them handily if our offense can move the ball. As long as KJ Jefferson, I think he's more physically prepared to play the kind of offense that Gus likes to play. He's played in the SEC before, so this is not going to be new for him. He's a tough dude. Everything I've heard from the wide receivers that have been talking about him and how he's interacted and his attitude is to win, not just to make it to the NFL, but that's the type of dude he is. And his expectations are high for everyone, and I think so are Gus's. Once they got KJ Jefferson, the expectations went through the roof. I talked about this earlier on. When we got KJ Jefferson, did the thought process change on who we brought in and how many? I do think it's going to be to the detriment of some of the freshmen that are coming in or sophomores that came in last year that may have seen more playing time to let us figure it out. Josh, I think that Gus is pissed. And I think because he's pissed, I think it's a different attitude. And I think they take the bull by the horns like we've done so many times in the past for the Cows. And I do think 10-2 is reasonable. They can do more. We bring back RJ Harvey. Ricky Barber is back. We've got that defensive line that's stout that we recruited. John Walker has another year to evolve. And I think we brought the attitude back in the secondary. Linebackers, we got some linebackers as well. The guy that we stole from Washington, who was considering us in Washington, their head coach left. Aaron Barr, I think is his name. We got him. I feel like this season, everybody's like, enough is enough. It's not just more, UCF football. This is not UCF brand of football, identity, all whatever. Ted Roof is coming in to lay down the freaking law, right? And I do believe that Gus is tired of it, and he's going to run these guys into the ground, and he's here to win, and he's brought the pieces in to do it right away. So whether we end up with 10-2 or 9-4, I could see it going both ways. I'm going to err on the side of 10-2. I think the attitude is back, and I think with guys, you can say what you think, say what you want about threats. I mean, this guy got thrown out of our game last year at Cincinnati. But I give me more of those guys that are going to go downhill and take a guy's head off and have that attitude. And I think that's going to turn into wins. As I said, I think this, if you're not excited about this schedule, I don't know what to tell you. It's set up for us. We got 7 home games, 7 times to tailgate. Make sure you're there. Enjoy the heck out of it, because this is going to be a special season. Hot take for this week. All right. Moving on. I guess that's a B, but I think that's too long for a short. All right. So we talked about that. And also, let's kind of talk about, I mentioned, the people that were on campus this weekend. Gus doing Gus things with a bunch of 4-stars on campus this weekend. I had 2 weekends in a row, really, because you had the night weekend, the Friday Night Lights that they do. And then they had this weekend, and we've got a commit from 4-star safety Kendarius Reddick from Auburn. So a flip from Auburn. Remember, we grabbed the Auburn coach. We talked about it a couple of pods ago about how he was big and Auburn was really, really, really upset that he left. We're starting to pick those guys off. 2025 4-star commit lands us at number 17 overall out of Thomasville, Georgia. Number 7 overall safety in Georgia, ranked number 64 in the nation. Consensus highest highest recruit we've ever gotten, and that eclipses John Walker and everybody. We keep upping that ante every year. He's 5'11", 170 pounds. And to me, this was huge for the 2025 recruiting class. Gus is not playing around. We've got NIL dollars. People are stepping up more. Nobody else. We've got more. We've got more 4-stars than the entire Big 12 right now for 2025. And it's crazy to me because we went from diamond mining, right? Diamond mining, and Coach O'Leary saying, "Hey, don't commit to me unless you're 100% sure that you're going to commit to me," to 2025 recruits, 4-star blue chip recruits, number 64 player in the nation, to UCF. This is why FSU and UF and Miami wanted to keep us out of the Power 5.
Mm-hmm.
So, really excited about that one, and we've got more recruits that had a really, and I won't say more about who, what, where, why, but there were a lot of recruits on campus last weekend at that OU game that were really highly rated. I was thinking West Virginia again, highly related. Highly rated recruits that were on campus, and supposedly some silent commits came out of that. The Birds, the Birds were in full form on Twitter again. The Cranes, Sandhill Cranes, and I've heard not just obviously we've heard some things on the Dungeon. By the way, get in there if you can. But other places that I've heard that we picked up a couple of commits out of that weekend that are silent commits that we'll announce at a later date. Now, again, anything can change. They're 2025 recruits. Lots of things can change. But UCF, number 17 in the country right now for 2025 recruiting, blue chip recruits. This is what we could be. This is what we said we were going to do. And Gus Malzahn is, from a recruiting standpoint, I don't want to be Miami, right? We won the offseason and then, don't win a conference championship. I don't want to be those guys, but I don't think UCF ever will be. And, this is huge for UCF football. Anything you guys want to say about that?
Just excited. I mean, it's just excited about it all. It's
all right. So at this point, we're at number 7. So if you're not drunk by 7 shots by now,
if they combine the two of you on the excited count, man, I'd be pretty much everybody would be hammered.
Here's the reason. I mean, we talked about it. I won't get too much in depth, but we have other people entering in conference that are were part of the Pac-12 and Power 5, and they are the new people to this conference, combined with all of these great matchups we're now seeing that we've talked about so far, combined with all these great athletes that want to join us. And I really think it's a mix between having Gus Malzahn, right? Like that name itself and his experiences combined with NIL, and we're okay. We're not, Texas A&M, but we're not giving out pennies.
Clearly right? That doesn't matter because Texas A&M, I mean, you see what they've been doing with Jimbo.
I agree with that too, but maybe that was partially Jimbo Fisher. But the reality is there's just so much excitement. Drink surrounding the team, so that's why spirits are high, and we'll see what happens as soon as we get past a couple of games, a spring game, and get at TCU. So that's where I'm at right now.
I think.
All right. Awesome.
Go ahead. Quickly say about recruiting in the 2025 class. I'm not going to get too excited about verbal commits yet, but what I am pumped about with the 2025 list so far is you've got some great. I mean, Lawrenceville or Thomasville, Georgia. That's a great area of the country, a hotbed of recruiting, if you will. And then certainly you look at the Central Florida programs or schools or areas that are the rest of our 4 verbal commits from the 2025 class have come from. In particular, our only 3 stars so far on the list. The rest are 4 stars, but is an offensive lineman from Cocoa, and that's Ryan Schneider's program over at Cocoa. They won a couple state championships. Yeah, they won a couple state championships over there, and that's so picking up on these like hotbed, programs on the high school level. It's fantastic to get one of them, but potentially with the amount of talent that's on their team at the high school level, that one commitment could turn into 2 or 3, and then all of a sudden you're kind of developing another pipeline. And so that's a part that I'm looking at as just a positive thing for the 2025 class, and the way it's kind of shaping up with just the 4 commits that we've gotten so far.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm very, very, no, I didn't say it. I said egg. Yeah, take that down, Nobra. I'm very, to use Ben's word, pumped about recruiting. I there's ups and downs in recruiting. We don't get them all, but hey, we're a heck of a lot. We're a long distance away from diamond mining under the George O'Leary era.
Yes.
So
yes.
All right. So let's pivot. There it is. Pivot. College football playoff discussions are going on today and tomorrow. As we said before, there is not an expectation to change the format from the 12 teams over the next 2 years. But they are talking about what happens after. And one of the things that happened since the last time we had a podcast is that there is a new alliance, the evil alliance between the Big Ten and the SEC. Again, there's another Star Wars theme to be there. I'm imagining a Death Star like coming in, right?
It's very appropriate in this scenario, I think.
100%. Yeah. So, there's been a lot of movement as far as teams are concerned. The SEC now has 16 teams. The Big Ten now has 18 teams. And they brought together teams that are, again, and I'll say this again, if you've seen me talk about this is brand consolidation, right? And there's gonna be some noise about that. I think one of the things that's going to be on the table is voting rights. So in the past, if y'all remember the journey to the playoff, where the AAC was fighting, the Big East was a automatic qualifier, or AQ conference, as they called it back in the day, which was the equivalent of power back in back at that time. We had a bunch of movement. West Virginia went to the Big 12. Louisville left. A season into our stint into the conference formerly known as the Big East. All of that stuff happened, and there was a lot of negotiations around inclusion and voting rights. And actually now the Power 5 conference, one of the things that they did back then was they actually made the votes for Power 5 teams worth more than G5 teams. And the whole impetus behind that back then was, well, you guys can't afford to put in place the things that we want to put in place, so you're holding us back. So we're going to get more votes than you so we can pass stuff, right? And the whole Power 6 campaign was all about, hey, we're going to put in place anything you pass within the AAC, so we should be included, right? That obviously didn't pan out. Mike Oresco got his teams scraped out, including eventually UCF, Houston, and Cincinnati. And now we're at a moment in time where I think the discussion is, one, are the SEC and Big Ten votes worth more than the G5? And more, which they already are, but even more so, and more than some of the P4 members, right? So ACC, Jim Phillips, who's trying to keep his conference together, has FSU pitching a fit, trying to get out. Clemson monitoring closely what's going on. North Carolina as a stated target for the Big Ten and the SEC. How does that play out? Like, that's really the crux of the conversation. And, really looking at it, if it is a voting thing, well, right now, if the Big Ten has the same amount of votes as the SEC, we've got 18 teams versus 16 teams. So do they make a play for two teams to be able to have the same amount as the Big Ten? As well as that, you've got OSU and Washington State. So Oregon State and Washington State are fighting for their quote unquote relevancy, right? They are going to make the case that they should still have the same say as everyone else. I hate to tell, Oregon State, Washington State, you should 100% be doing that. If your chancellors or presidents or whatever they aren't doing that, they're not doing their job, but it ain't going to happen. SMU, something that came out of today's discussions, we were talking about them moving up and whether they should get a full share. Their shares, they agreed to give them something, but not a full share. So wouldn't it be funny if they still got the AAC share? But the question is going to be, how are they going to div up the revenue shares going forward? Not again over the next 2 years. That's already set in stone. But that next contract. And if they don't get their way, what do they do about it? Right? So right now, and Mark Daniels actually talked about this on his show, the Big Ten and the SEC are holding all the cards. Just like back then, right? The difference was the G5, it required a unanimous vote at that time. That change. The G5 has no dog in this fight. They split $110 million currently per year from the playoff. Does that change? Is there unequal revenue sharing amongst the Power Four conferences? They're going to have to do some distribution changes because obviously the Power Five doesn't exist anymore. But, do they do distribution changes? If the ACC does lose team or lose their power status at some point, do they build in something into the contract to account for that? If you lose X amount of teams that, kind of like what they do for TV contracts, right? Because what this is it's a TV contract as far as revenue sharing is concerned. But the NCAA is splitting up those revenue shares and deciding how it does it. Right now, the Big Ten and the SEC do have a lot of leverage. Now, Nick Saban left Alabama. What if Alabama falls flat in its face like Clemson did? You know what I mean? So you still got Georgia. But the big thing is, and I want everybody to understand this, this is a ratings play. This is inventory on a shelf. And the ROI right now with brand consolidation is higher, right? And for those that are not business people, ROI is return on investment on that shelf space is higher for the SEC and the Big Ten than it is for the other conferences. So how does that affect the payout? And that's what they're arguing right now. Whether you believe it or not, whether you agree with it or not, that's what the facts are. Some of it is where the placement of the games are, but a lot of it is just the brands. And this is where the silver lining is for UCF that other schools don't have. We are so large, we're pumping out alumni at such a high rate that we will be at 500,000 alumni within the next 5 years. 500,000 living alumni.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we are 500,000 living alumni, how many TV sets does that equate to? That's better and bigger than a lot of these existing Power 5 schools. We are on the upswing when it comes to all of that stuff. We're getting more ratings. We have a metro that's larger than the state of Oklahoma's population. Okay. So again, we are a stock that we want to invest in. ESPN has consistently done that since the Big East times. So we are on the right side of the brand popularity standpoint as long as we continue to win. So that was a mouthful. But I feel very, very strongly about this. Guys, this is money. This is not what they don't care. They blew up college football a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not really. It's the college portion of college football is only the names on the front of the jerseys at this point that they happen to be colleges. I do have a question for maybe both of you, just because I don't know the answer to it, and I'm curious. Is the current revenue sharing in the current setup of the college football playoff, I guess just let's call it 4 for now. Is it split between the power conferences evenly?
Yes.
Does it? And so it doesn't matter if a Big 12 team makes the top 4, they still get a share of the revenue, or it does matter.
Okay, so there's 2 different things at play, right? So there's how much the teams make for their conference that are participating in the playoff. There's bonuses.
So the participation does get a bonus on top of it. Okay.
Correct. But the flat payout is the same for all of the conferences. So I think it's $59.7 million or something per conference, just
because the CFP exists.
Exactly. And then you get more money. You get several $1 million more for each step of the way that you progress up that ladder, right? So you, like in Alabama, I think that would be another $10 million or so that Alabama brings home to the conference. If it was Georgia and Alabama, it'd be 20 million more. So there are incentives for that, for the teams that are participating, and just like bowls, the team gets a percentage of that, right? So, but it goes to the conference, and each conference has its own way of divvying that up. That being said, again, all 5 G5 conferences share 110 million, whereas every Power 5 conference gets 59 million.
Right.
So
$60
million, right? That's the current model. How does that change beyond? Well, first of all, how do you divvy up the P4 or the
whatever that
the
is?
PAX, the PAX share? I imagine for this contract cycle for the next 2 years, it'll probably just be, hey, we'll split the 4, or we'll split it in 4 evenly. Or they could say, hey, we'll give another boost and put that towards the teams that are playing and those conferences to reward them, which means the next 2 years it's going to be SEC and Big Ten. But, what does that look like going forward? And that's what they're discussing now.
Mm-hmm.
It's already locked in that we're going to go to 12. So the questions that they're answering now are for what happens in the future. And that's why you see this quote unquote alliance materialize mysteriously a week before all of these discussions are being had.
Yeah, I think all roads are going to eventually lead to like 25 team super conferences that are regional, and you hash it out. It's like I don't know. It's like I mean, it's almost at this point I almost want it to be that way. Want it to be like the NFL or like the NBA actually, which is a little more regional in its conferences. Like you I don't, at this point, it's just like, what's the point? I mean, what's the point of even naming a conference with a number in it anymore? I mean, the Big 10 has 18 teams. The Big 12 has how many teams? I mean, it's just kind of like the holding on
16
to that.
teams, by the way, after the PAC joins.
16, right?
Yeah, 16 is what we'll have.
Right, 16 in the Big 12. And so that just sounds weird. 18 in the Big 10, which again just sounds weird. It's like you got teams like, and I hate to bring up certain schools like Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's always the easiest one, right? Like they've been around for 100 years and they're benefiting on that. But Vanderbilt's really good at other sports as well. But it's just
baseball.
Baseball. The Vandy boys are really good. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. I think we're eventually going to get to that 20 team regional super conferences that are just called the Southeast Conference. They're going to well, I guess that's already in it. But you know what I mean? Like it's Southeast, Southwest.
Well,
like
I mean, if they did that though,
Northeast, Northwest.
if they did focus on regionality, you think about the teams that are left that the SEC would pick up. And if let's use your number of what, 25 or 20
25 teams, yeah.
All right, so 20 teams, I don't think we get in. 25 teams, I think we have a good shot.
Right.
Yeah. I think it takes. I think once you get to 3 conferences, if you will, of 60 something, we're in one of the 3. I mean, honestly, we are one of the 3 now, being the Big 12, because ACC gets picked apart as soon as either Notre Dame kind of disaffiliates or
they'll
FSU,
stay independent.
Yeah, they'll stay independent, and they'll always be in, which still kind of blows my mind, but that's how you can do it. And FSU somehow finds their way out or beats all of this. If FSU finds any crack in that grant of rights, I think it's over for the ACC. And I don't think the Big 12 has as much of a problem. So if you get to 3 conferences of 20 plus, we're already in it.
If this happens the way that it's happening, right, and that it does happen that way, where it either, you have more consolidation at the top, then FSU has a reasonable conversation that their affiliation with the ACC is detrimental to them. And I do believe that FSU, look, to me, I may just be putting things together here, but the fact that Brett Yormark was talking about taking basketball and separating that, I think that was for a reason. I think those winds of change were already swirling, and at least the rumors were out there that was a conversation. It was a conversation amongst the average fan, so I imagine it's a conversation with the conference commissioners, right? He's already preparing for that, to be able to basically have a separate contract that's worth enough to make up whatever is offset if they do separate. Because if they do separate, the Big 12, we may be number 3 now, and the ACC might go away, but we may become that second tier division. Josh, did you have something?
I agree. Unfortunately, I agree. And we at UCF.
I just wrote the banner. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
so I'll read it for those of you that don't watch on YouTube. Nobra puts up these banners of weird things we say while we're saying it. And his quote for me, and I didn't even realize I said this, he says, "If this happens the way it's happening," and it happens that way. That's a lot of happening things going on right now.
It's happening. No,
it's happening.
Yeah, no. I really think that what's going to happen is
is this the new drinking game?
Now we're in a happening loop. It's interesting. It's wonderful. It's happening. And what was the last one we have to say? So you drink?
Excited.
Okay. Got that all
We're
out
excited
of the way.
that it's happening.
I'm not excited that it's happening.
No, we're not excited about this.
We're not excited. You're still saying excited if you say not excited.
Yeah. I getting all the verbal linguistics out of the way. So if the Big Ten and the SEC break away, the only hope we really have is that they expand pretty deep. And at that point, the Big Ten is going to want some teams in the South, you would think. So I think there might be some play there, but it's kind of sad, right? Like I remember, all of us here have been sports fans for quite some time, UCF fans for quite some time. And yeah, we've moved up so many times. We've hit every single type of structure we can, P6, P5, P4, I guess now. it would be sad if we couldn't get to that final place where we were really, really, really part of the end structure of whatever college football becomes.
And I'll say this to that. I think we will no matter what.
I
When
feel
it
so.
happens,
I feel
I
like
don't
that.
know. But I've told you all along, I think we'll be an SEC team at some point. All right. One last layer that I'm going to add to this onion. Today and late breaking this afternoon, the National Labor Relations Board actually said today that Dartmouth players, even though they are not scholarship players, are considered employees, which is huge.
Yeah.
When it comes to case law and when we're talking about the move to having a NFL style contract, a players union, they are able to unionize. And yes, it doesn't matter what class of college athletics that they're in today. I guarantee you that there will be other lawsuits that are brought that will. And Greg Sankey talked about this. He's not blind. One of the critiques he had of the NCAA is that they were not addressing it. They're going to be forced to address it now. So paid players are coming, and paid players. The tax revenue, the government has an incentive for that. And I think he's really sounding the alarm of like, how are we dealing with this? Because the NCAA structure can't. It can't. So how do they do that? Do they separate? That may be the thing that pushes us over the edge, or at least gives them consideration to creating their own division in football. Because I do believe if they do split, it will not be all sports. It will be football only. So, all right,
Yeah.
enough of that. Let's go ahead and I'm going to do a quick UCF student re-education segment. I yelled at the clouds for Trey earlier. And Ben, this is all yours. You were talking about the O'Leary years and what it was like for student athletes when he came in as far as working out and their workout habits.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess, yeah, I was talking about this offline, so I can jump into a quick story about it. When O'Leary came in, it was, so when did he was 2003 was when he was first, 2002 or 2003? Yeah. So I think it was 2003, 04. That was the 2003 season, maybe, or was it 2004 season? Anyways,
I think it was I'll tell you in a second.
The first year that O'Leary came in, I believe it was the 2003 season was the first season of O'Leary, but because my freshman year in 2002-03, I know that Kruzik was there, so it was just a different vibe. I mean, as athletes, you just kind of you're always hanging out with the rest of the athletes for the most part. Obviously, mostly with your team, but it's kind of like the biggest sorority fraternity combined on campus is the athletics department. And so certainly when that transition happened from Kruzik to O'Leary, it was like, I just remember going through our workouts or going to the Wayne Dench to work out just on our own before our true like preseason started for basketball. Like we'd have individual workouts and things like that. We'd be in the weight room constantly, but like that time for UCF football was just insane because O'Leary came in, and this is just the type of mentality that like you just won't see anymore in 2024 and beyond. But like he came into the athletic department, he came into the football team like ready to make people quit. Like his goal, and he's talked about this in interviews, since he retired from coaching, but like when he came into UCF, but I'm sure he came into a lot of programs like this. Like his goal was to figure out who was mentally tough enough to actually, truly be the type of player that he wants to that he wants playing for him. And Trey could talk about this, way better than I can, but I can speak from a point, just my perspective, kind of being adjacent to it on the basketball team. Like, I remember a lot of football players at that time that just couldn't handle it. And if they could handle it, they didn't quit. They really struggled with the, thought process of trying to see if they could actually handle this type of coaching long term. And so that was just a time at UCF in that first year when O'Leary came in there, in that first preseason for football. But just in general, when he came in, he wanted to call out the, anybody who thought that they were just comfortable with the previous coaching staff and they were just going to skate by and be, happy to be a college football player. Like, O'Leary didn't have any of that. And I think he was hired like right after that 2002 season. Am I right, Josh?
It was after the 2003 season.
It was after the 2003 season. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So it was really when he came in preparing for the spring game. It was right away. I mean, it wasn't the preseason going into the fall. It was like, y'all, we're gonna figure out who wants to play for me and who doesn't, and who wants to do it the right way and the O'Leary way. And I'm telling you, man, he made a lot of people quit. I don't know the numbers, but that was some serious stuff back in the day that you just can't do anymore. And the thing about it is, like, how different it was back then, that like I say, you can't do that anymore. But like college coaches today wouldn't even think about doing that kind of stuff. Like, just the 2-a-day practices with the 3-hour weight room in between is just like, it's just insane stuff. So O'Leary was no joke, as Trey will tell you, and he can elaborate on that a little bit further. But,
all right.
In the early days, it was he came in with a fire. That's for sure.
Yep, so much so that the basketball team could not lift weights as often as when the football team was in. All right, so thank you for that, Ben. We'll put a pin in that for next week, and we'll have you ask Trey that question. All right, so really quick, obviously we don't have Alan this week, so Alan's oxymoronic stat of the week doesn't exist. Oxymoronically, he's not here. Josh, however, and his sometimes funny fact of the week is here. So Josh, yes, take it away.
Yeah, this is a pretty easy one, but I don't know. So this week we're going to be playing Texas Tech in Lubbock. And as many fans of sport know,
tortillas
is known for tortillas. Why is Texas Tech known for tortillas?
Oh, really? I didn't Josh doesn't put this on here. So I didn't know what he was going to say. I was just going to say tortillas because
but why the tortillas? Why it's first of mind at this point, but why?
Ben?
No, you're going to get, I have no idea. You're going to educate me at this time. I have no clue.
Most per capita. Do they make them there? Maybe.
So there's the answer is no one exactly knows, but there's two versions of what people think it was, and one of them is very close to that. So the most basic version is in 1989, fans were starting to throw lids from their drinks during the games, and when the concession stands got wise that they were doing this, they stopped providing drinks with lids, and then the fans started tossing tortillas on the field. That's one version of it. The other version, which I think people
and they were okay with the tortillas, but not okay with the lids.
That's
biodegradable tortillas are better than the plastic lids, I guess.
That's true. They biodegrade. So the other story is what I think most fans want to be true. So maybe.
By the way, before you go further with that, I have heard from a Tortilla Tech fan that they actually cut out the center of them or punch out the center of them before they throw them because they're more aerodynamic and they spin better.
Yeah, that makes sense. It does.
So rocket science, tortilla science, and Tortilla Tech.
Frisbee tortillas.
So the other potential in what I think most people hope is true is a result of Texas Tech's rivalry with Texas A&M. So, as the legend goes, there was an ESPN announcer that claimed that the town of Lubbock, Texas, was almost empty, and prior to a game, apparently there was nothing but Texas Tech football in a tortilla factory in Lubbock, according to that announcer, before a game in Texas A&M. After that comment, the fans apparently took a little things hard through tortillas and tossed them off at kickoff, and ever since the tradition has lived on. So maybe a little one, maybe a little number two. Yeah, that's just the way it is. So that's from every type, like from papers in Lubbock. I found this general two stories in every single place where they talk about being tortilla tech.
All right, awesome. So I guess the this is an unsolved mystery still. Josh will get to the bottom of this with his investigative tortilla reporting. And you're making me hungry for tortillas right now. It almost makes me want to make a run for Taco Bell. All right. That being said, quick update on UCF Sports. Josh, take it away.
Okay, so we had a couple of interesting things happen in other sports because we even had a game canceled. My guess is it was because of all that wonderful hail and storms that came the last couple of days. But the UCF women's hoops team is doing all right. They lost to a ranked.
What's the story? We had a game canceled? What
Yeah, not the women's team, but the tennis team. I was getting to that.
Okay. All right.
Jeez. So the women's team did lose to a ranked West Virginia 84-53, which does happen when you play against top teams.
84-53.
Yeah, they are good. And we have a ranked, I think we have Kansas State and Texas coming up in the future, which are ranked 8 or 9 or 9 or 8. I forgot which one. If you think Big 12 hoops for men's basketball is pretty darn good, the women's hoops teams are pretty darn good too. I mean, the Kansas State game, Kansas State is one of few teams that have beaten Iowa. So this is a pretty good conference for basketball all around. Now back to the coffee. But we did notch the second conference win with a 71-66 victory over Iowa State, which is a pretty darn good team as well. That was also at home, and we had a wonderful weekend in Orlando of all kinds of sports with the Pro Bowl. We had women's hoops winning. We had men's hoops winning. We had a trial for the Olympic marathon that blocked off downtown Orlando for like half the day. So it was a pretty big sports weekend going on. Now, men's tennis has their next matchup on February 8th, but the women's team has unfortunately lost to FIU, and then the match against Miami was canceled. And my guess is probably because of those hailstorms that happened. I think it was on Sunday, and I was driving home on I-4, and it felt like when I was growing up, I had tin roofs over my windows, and when you had really, really hard rain, it made this wonderful noise that I liked, or tin awnings. And I was driving my car, and it felt like things were just like banging drums on the top of my roof. I have to check that out, but that's probably why that game.
You had all day to look at your car. You didn't look at your car?
I have other things to do. I was at a conference. I have to catch up with business and sleep, to be honest.
All right. And on that note, that brings us to the end of the show. Josh has literally made it through without drooling on his keyboard. Although if you guys are watching the YouTube version of this, he was yawning quite a bit. So that's the reason why we appreciate the fact that he made it this week. And Ben, as always, appreciate you being here. And those that didn't. Alan still provided us with the show notes, although he couldn't make it this evening. Trey, you're just SOL. So at this point, we talked about a lot this week. There's a lot going on. I just want to leave everybody with the impression and my impression and thoughts on the fact that it's exciting to be a UCF fan right now. The ups and downs and everything that we do that goes with sports. It makes the wins that much sweeter. But at the end of the day, UCF in all sports is not only competing, but leading. I'm just proud. I'm proud of where we came from. I'm excited that we're competitive. People, we went from, UCF, Central Florida. Where are they from? Well, obviously Central Florida, but they knew nothing about it, right? And now we're in a position where everybody knows our name, and there's a lot more respect to come. So put some respect on it, people. No matter what happens, it's an exciting time to be a UCF fan, and there are more exciting times to come. For those of you that are excited about our podcast and didn't fall asleep, please make sure to like, subscribe, review. Make sure you're hitting those stars and give us feedback to let us know how we can make this thing better. We appreciate you all for listening. Go Knights and
charge on. Man, I can't believe Kansas State beat Kansas, and they had 4 losses in a